Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode 4, and I am Adam Choit. For now, to follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and I'm at Adam Choit on Instagram as well if you want to follow me. And again, just a disclaimer, I have no affiliation with the band. This is not an official podcast for the band or anything. I'm just a passionate fan. And if you're listening, I'm guessing there's a good chance you might be too. Anyway, if you listen to them, I hope you enjoyed the first 3 episodes of this podcast. And if you did, I would greatly appreciate it if you would take the time to write out a short positive review on iTunes. This is definitely helpful for sure. And I'm going to do my best to continue to put out episodes weekly. That's the plan at least. Not on any specific day of the week at the moment, but we'll see. Maybe I'll end up going with a particular day of the week. But for today's episode, number 4, I have another guest. His name is David Flamm, and he's been to over 50 live Tedeschi Trucks Band shows, many of them with his wife Anne, who designs custom t-shirts that they wear almost to every single show. These shirts have song titles, lyrics, or really anything printed on them that has something to do with Tedeschi Trucks Band. Growing up in the Atlanta area, a hardcore Johnny Winter fan and an Aerosmith fan, when David saw Derek with the Allman Brothers and later TTB, Susan and Derek quickly became his number 1 band. And we cover so much in this one, it's almost hard to summarize into an introduction. So let's just get into it. Here's David Flamm. So it's good to see you today, David Flamm.
Good to see you, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time. How are you holding up out there? Where are you again right now?
I'm in Marietta, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, just in the suburbs of Atlanta. And my wife and I are holding it up well, working from home and kind of physically distancing from others. As a matter of fact, it's my son's 30th birthday today. And so we did a little Zoom with all the kids, and we each had a cupcake and sang happy birthday to him.
That's nice. You make the best of it. You do the best you can.
That's for sure.
In some ways, I'm hearing, and I mean, I'm experiencing this too. It's like forcing people to almost like get to know each other better in some ways, because we're having all these Zoom conversations and Skype conversations, and there's nothing really going on in the world other than like, bad news or coronavirus news. So it's everyone's just talking about each other and our lives and digging deep. Like I'm sure like we'll do a little bit today. So why don't you tell me about where you grew up and what life was like and, your music roots, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. Happy to. Before I kind of dive back into the beginning, I do want to let you know my beautiful wife, Anne, has been my partner in crime since we met in 2004 and got married in 2006, and has been on the TTB journey with me.
That's great.
But I actually was born in Louisville, Kentucky, moved to Atlanta before my first birthday, grew up in the city of Atlanta. My mother was a small-time comedian, and my dad was a salesman who played some saxophone as a hobby on the side. And myself, not very musically inclined instrument-wise, but certainly love music from an early age. Really got introduced by a couple of my friends when we were probably, I think, 12 years old, something like that. And first thing I heard, I believe, was Edgar Winter. They only come out at night. And first concert I went to in '73 was Alice Cooper.
Nice.
So a wide range of music that I enjoy, and just grew up here in Atlanta. Went to college at the University of South Florida down in Tampa for 4 years. In the late '70s, early '80s, they had a good music scene in Tampa as well. Saw a lot of shows down there for the 4 years I was there, and then came back to Atlanta after college and moved to the suburbs. Started a family. Unfortunately, my first wife passed away from ovarian cancer back in.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Back in 2003, and she was a big music fan. She was a big Bruce Springsteen fan, and I was a big Aerosmith fan when we got together. And
I'm a big Aerosmith fan also, and Bruce to some degree, but more Aerosmith, I would say, of those two is me.
Well, Well, I'll tell you about that. But so we were into music. Had two kids, and it was funny. My daughter never really got into music. My son got into a lot of music, but when I drove him around the car, I would only let him listen to what I like to listen to. I would never let him play what he was into with what I call the kind of the newfangled music,
Sure.
which kind of didn't do it for me.
Those crazy kids.
Yeah, kind of like the rock and roll didn't do it for my parents back in the
Right.
70s, which you guys know as classic rock and roll now.
Exactly.
We just
Yeah.
called it rock and roll back then, right?
Mhm.
But I've always enjoyed the music. And then Ann and I met in, like I said, in '04, got married in '06, and we've enjoyed live music together, ever since.
We just covered a lot. That's good stuff. What? So you never played any instruments as a kid, and you didn't sing or anything like that?
No, I didn't. I was kind of a wannabe, but as you probably know, playing guitar, you've got to develop some calluses and everything on your
Right.
fingers. I guess I wasn't really willing to work hard enough. But a dear friend of mine named Tony Levitas, who I've known since I was 5 years old, got into music. He played guitar, and of course, he had all the girls growing up in high school because he played guitar. I didn't. But I used to hang out with his band in high school, and I'd help set things up, do different things, and he played all the way through college. We actually went to South Florida together. We were roommates for 2 years, and he had all different kinds of bands and recorded some music. He's got a lot of stuff out and about. He's pretty popular here in the Atlanta area. And one of the things he shared with me is the early incarnation of the Black Crowes, Mr. Crow's Garden, actually opened up for his band for a couple of shows way back in the early '80s.
That's what the Black Crowes were in there.
Yes.
Black Crowes.
Exactly, Mr. Crow's Garden, I think they were called, and they were just high school kids from here in Marietta. I was not attuned to that back then, but he had told me that story.
That's cool.
So just used to hang out with his band and stuff, do different crazy things. He would play his band would play the Batman theme once in a while, and I'd come up on stage and hold up Biff, Pow, Zowie, and signs. And
That's funny. I played the Batman theme in middle school. I played trumpet. I think I'm pretty sure it was middle school where we definitely 100% played the Batman theme in band.
There you go. See?
Yes. So you just love being around bands, around music, or around the scene, going to shows. It's just always been pretty much something that you love, just being around it.
Yep. Kind of I guess my friends describe me really in 3 words: live music, food, and travel. Those are the 3 things that I like, and probably in that order.
That's funny that you say that, because that's actually what my next question was going to be like, what do you have other interests, or is music like your number one interest of, as far as like a hobby or, a passion kind of thing?
Yeah, it's definitely the live music is my passion, Adam. It's funny. I don't listen to, I actually don't listen to a whole lot of studio music. Most of what I listen to is live stuff. Like we can get off of a lot of the internet now. One of my favorite things is listening to live TTB shows that Anna attended.
Yeah, you're like my twin over there. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, 95% of what I listen to from Tedeschi Trucks Band is probably, live stuff, whether it's on YouTube or the apps or whatever, or what they put out.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I've got I think, as we had talked about, previously before the call, and I've been to 56 TTB shows, going back to 2013 was my first show, and been to a few without my wife, Ann, but she's probably been to close to 50 of them with me.
Wow. So, why don't we go back a little bit? How did you sort of discover Tedeschi Trucks Band? Were you already a fan of Derek or Susan or the Allman Brothers or anything like that before they formed?
Well, kind of, I guess, in my early influence for music and getting into the rock bands, and I saw pretty much all the big names going back to the early '70s. I was a little too young for for Jimi Hendrix or the Beatles, unfortunately. My sister, who's 10 years older than me, saw both the Beatles and Hendrix. So she's always one up on me, or two up on me, I should say.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw, Zeppelin, the Stones, the Who, George Harrison, Paul McCartney. But really, I think what always struck me were the guitar players for bands. And I was a big Aerosmith fan. I saw them in '75 for the first time. I've actually seen them, I think, 42 times.
Wow.
And I was really into Joe Perry and his guitar playing. And someone else that I'd actually seen a little bit before that in '74 for the first time was Johnny Winter.
Yeah.
I know Derek is a big fan of Johnny Winters, and he was kind of my first kind of guitar hero. He was my favorite guitar player as I was growing up through high school and college, and would try to see him, whenever I could. And I used to listen to an album called Second Winter. For some of you, maybe the young folks that might listen to this, it's a 3-sided album. They never did a 4-side. That was how much they wanted to put on the album, but highly recommend that album. On there also is Highway 61 Revisited, and it kind of ties in obviously with Derek and Susan. They're big Bob Dylan fans, and there's a song on there called Miss Ann, and I happened to chat with Susan one time and reminded her I saw a video of her playing Miss Ann with Johnny Winter at the Wanee Festival in Florida. I saw a video of this before I got introduced to
was this before Tedeschi Trucks Band was a band? This is
it might have been. It could have been Soul Stool Revival or
okay,
names and stuff.
I was just curious about when.
Yeah, so it was probably, I think that was maybe 2010, something like that.
Yeah.
You can, as the YouTube fan that you are, I'm sure you can find Susan and Johnny Winter doing a song called Miss Ann.
Sounds fun.
So that's, kind of cool little story there about Susan and Johnny Winter.
Is that how you discovered Susan Tedeschi? Was through that?
Well, actually, first kind of started with the Allman Brothers. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Dwayne and Barry Oakley, but I did see him the first time in 1974. I saw the Allman Brothers and was a fan and kind of lost track a little bit. And they, went through so many different incarnations with different members and so forth. And the way I actually got back to the Allman Brothers and got into eventually TTB was a good friend of mine named Jim Laterra, who's the biggest live music person I know. He goes, he's retired now. He goes to see live music 6 nights a week. So I know this coronavirus is crimping that style.
What city does he live in?
He's here in the Atlanta area.
But there's, if you just go to, you'll find shows in the city, small shows, various shows.
Stuff, but he also likes a lot of the new bands, and he'll travel, 3 or 4 hours by car to see stuff. But we were over at his house on a Saturday night in 2012, and he put on some music, and it was live Allman Brothers. And I said, wow, this is terrific. I said, where's this recorded from? He said, no, this is being broadcast live from Live Oak, Florida. It's a festival called the Wanee Festival. And I said, well, tell me about it. And he did. And before we got up from the sitting out on his back deck that night, I said, we'll be attending the Wanee Festival next year. I said, nice. We're in. So 2013, the festival is every April, and it's hosted by the Allman Brothers. It was up until they kind of retired in 2014. So my first time seeing Derek was April 19th of 2013, playing with the Allman Brothers at the Wanee Festival, big open field. And first song they played was Hotlanta, and I was immediately struck with Derek's playing. I had never seen him play. I'd heard him, on the radio the year before live. And I think the fourth song in, they did Blue Sky. And the lead that he played on that I was mesmerized, and I said, I might dig this guy more than Johnny Winter. I was that blown away the first time I saw him. And the next day, TTB played an afternoon set. And again, I did not know who Susan was at the time. Mike Madison, didn't know any of them, and was just really enthralled with what they were, what they played, and didn't really dig too deep into it until I went back to Wani again the next year, and went every year through 2017 to that festival. But I think the last time that Derek and Susan played there with TTB was 2014. Saw them again there. It was amazing. My son actually went to that festival with me, and he was kind of turning me on to a lot of newer bands, Humphreys McGee, Blackberry Smoke, Charlie Starr. I think he's amazing. So I was learning about, new, younger people. And I was a snob. I thought if a band didn't start in the 70s, they really weren't worth listening to.
Yeah.
So I was kind of opening my eyes up to some new music, and TTB was at the top of the list. And 2015 in February, they came to Macon, home of the Allman Brothers, and myself, my son, a couple of his friends, my friend Jim, we all went down to Macon, and they ended up playing a cover of "Keep on Growing" for the first encore with Jimmy Herring, and then went into a memory of Elizabeth Reed. And that night, I kind of said to myself, this is the band that's taken over for Aerosmith that I had listened to for 30-something years. And I was like, this is the band I want to follow. I really relate to what they're doing. Susan's voice, I thought, was the best I'd ever heard. And Derek had quickly become my favorite guitar player of all time.
It seems like your fandom just grew and grew and grew. It kept on growing, if you will. And then there were these moments where it like exponentially grew to the point where they were becoming, your number one thing.
It really was. And it took the first show really in a small kind of auditorium theater, really was what put it over from being out at a big festival. You're listening to all different kinds of music, and just being able to kind of hone in on at the time, which was 11-piece band. It was really something to me. And that's when I started kind of playing some of the music in the house. And my wife happened to hear it. And she's like, who is that singing? She says, that's the most incredible voice I've ever heard. And I explained, I said, honey, this is the band I told you I've seen a couple of times. I was trying to tell you they're the best thing going. And she's like, I'm going to the next show.
Yeah, it's funny. It just reminds me of something that happened yesterday. I know we're not really supposed to be going anywhere or whatever, but I did go for a little drive around the city, and I parked by the reservoir in Silver Lake here in LA, and I'm blasting, I think it was Any Day from the Lock-In with Trey. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to that, and this couple like comes up to my car, and they start asking me about the music. They're like, who is that? What band is that? And then, I went into my whole, my elevator pitch or whatever for the band, for sure. So
hopefully got some new disciples, huh?
Yeah. When people just don't hear it, they just don't know the band. But once they hear it and once they go to the show, like they're growing. And it seems like, I was having this conversation with a few different people. Maybe it was you who said this, that the fans are getting a little bit younger. It's slowly starting to, the audiences are starting to get a little bit younger.
Yeah, it's a big mix, I guess, for us, for my wife and I being 60 years old. Everybody seems kind of young, but I think we see, everybody from in their 20s to into their 70s.
Right.
Going and enjoying the music. And Ann and I both being 60, you would think, but not. We like to stand. The music moves us, so we're standers at the show.
Yeah.
And
how do you deal with the sitting versus standing? What's your overall philosophy? Do you have a philosophy? Do you?
I do. I think. Well, I kind of learned it from through the Allman Brothers and going to see them at the Beacon. I happened to see their very last show. Flew up with my buddy Jim that I mentioned. The two of us flew up to see the last two shows that they played. And the thing that I was told there was, well, if you're in the balcony, you sit, and if you're on the main level, you stand. So that was kind of my training.
Yeah, I've heard that. That makes there's sense to that for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of and fortunately for me, for 56 shows of TTB, I've never been in the balcony. So we stand, and the music moves us to kind of groove and dance and be up and about. So, and I think the band would probably tell you they feed off of that energy. The more energy the crowd has, it seems like the better the energy that comes off the stage.
Yeah, for sure.
I was telling you about my wife, hearing the Susan for the first time and being blown away. And so we went, her first show was actually here in the Atlanta area. It was the first Wheels of Soul show with Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. And it was a outdoor amphitheater, small kind of crowd. And it was amazing. And so my wife was hooked, and she was like, well, you're not going to these shows without me anymore. So,
yeah. It's funny with you. I have to almost get used to when I do these interviews, because every time I ask someone a question about Tedeschi Trucks, I have like a personal comment or a personal story or that I can add to the conversation, but I don't want to make every single thing. Oh yeah, I saw Wheels of Soul, Sharon Jones. Oh yeah, I remember so-and-so show. Oh yeah, what? But I don't need to say that every single time. It's almost understood that I was on saw the show on the tour, or saw what you're referring to, unless otherwise noted at this point.
Well, that's great. It's hey, that's why we're here chatting. We both love TTB, and more is always better, right?
For sure. What you've been to so many shows, so we can't go show by show, but are there any ones that in particular jump out at you, and for reasons?
Yeah, absolutely. Reasons? I think the first thing, Adam, that jumps out at me overall is how many friends we've made through going to the shows. And we travel. I think I looked it up. We've been to about 24, 25 different venues. I think we've seen them in 10 states. And just all the great people that we meet, not only sometimes getting to say hey to the band, their crew is amazing, and then the fans. We've made so many good friends over the last 5+ years being out and about. But a few of the shows I think that stand out. April of 2016, they did an outdoor show at Dockery Farms over in Cleveland, Mississippi, which is like the birthplace of the blues. And that was a really cool show. I think some of the people, a few fans that went there that I've met, would probably say it was one of the coolest venues. And it was almost like in an old, kind of like a half open cotton shed or something.
I remember seeing the video.
And the band drove up in cars. They each came up in a few cars, and they had to walk across the lawn to get to the stage. It was an unbelievable atmosphere, and a very, very small crowd. I'd guess 1,000 people maybe, something like that. It was really intimate. We go to Jazz Fest in New Orleans every year. We saw them there in 2016. It was incredible. For us, two places that we travel to pretty much every year: the Beacon Theater in New York, which I think brings together, the kind of the biggest fans from all over, not just the U.S., but even internationally.
Sure.
And even though I live in Atlanta, what I think Ann and I call really our home venue is in Nashville, the Ryman Auditorium, which is just historic. And we go up there every time they play the Ryman. Sometimes they do a 3-night run there. Sometimes it's back-to-back weekends.
Wasn't that their last show this year?
It was. They did a 3-night run, right there at the end of February. And it was amazing. I know everybody says it. You see it on Facebook all the time. When anybody goes to a show, what do they say after the show? It was the best show I've ever seen them do.
My last two guests said the same thing, I think.
And everybody says that. And for me, when somebody said, well, what's the best show? I said, it's going to be the next one.
Yeah.
Because they always just, you're so moved by each show that it just kind of supplants what you saw the previous time, the night before, or the year before, whenever you saw them.
Yeah, it's because I don't know how it's possible, but they get better. They do new things, and they do things to keep it fresh, all at the same time, making, playing classic music, their songs, and all the cover songs that we all love. So you're getting what you're getting, what you're getting, but you're getting something new at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of in awe each and every time you go see them. And we do try to go to different venues that we haven't been to. All of our friends tell us Red Rocks. We still haven't been to Red Rocks, but
that's almost shocking to me that you haven't been there.
We will get there. But we love, the Beacon is great. We've been down, we were down to Daly's place in Jacksonville the night that they opened that venue. It's not a very popular venue with the people down there. And that was actually the day that Greg Allman passed away. And we were driving down to the show from Atlanta, and we heard on the radio that Greg Allman had passed away that night. And we had actually been at Greg's last show that he had done the year before here in Atlanta at the Laid Back Festival in October of 2016. We had seen his very last live show. Last song he ever played was One Way Out, and Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top guested and played guitar with him on that. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But they did a nice tribute to Greg that night. And that was actually, I think it was maybe the next night. We went on to Orlando the next night, I think it was. And that was the first time I ever, Ann and I we got pictures with Derek and Susan. It was the first time, it'd been kind of following them since 2013. The first time we'd ever kind of got to say hello and how much we love their music and what
number show is this that you finally talked about?
This was May 28th of 2017. So this was probably, I don't know, maybe 20 shows in.
Wow.
Into.
That's also kind of surprising that you start 20 shows before. Like, I was already probably going up to them and saying these things probably at show 2 or 3, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it was, which was, kind of funny. I mean, we had met, some of the band. Mark Rivers, I think, was probably the first guy that we had kind of approached, and he has always just been so gracious. He seems to get along real well with my wife. We always get pictures of her and Mark together.
They're all super cool, and for some reason have been nice to me.
Yeah, they are. Yep. And a number of them live here in Atlanta. A number of the guys in the band live in the Atlanta area.
Kebby's from Atlanta.
Kebby is. Falcon lives here in Atlanta. Mike Madison lives not too far outside of Atlanta, and Mark Rivers has moved here. And obviously the newest member, Brandon Boone, the bass player, lives in the Atlanta area. He kind of grew up a little bit of a disciple of Colonel Bruce Hampton.
Right.
And, Brandon's, I think, a sensational bass player, and young guy, only 25 years old, but seems to hold his own and kind of fits in nicely, I think, with Derek's playing.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Where is everyone right now in the band? They're just home like us? They're home in Jacksonville, They're home in Atlanta, they're home in wherever everyone else lives?
I think they are. I just heard, I just listened to a webcast or something that Mike Madison did, talking about his new solo album. So I guess he's probably here in town. And we've had a chance to see Mike a couple of times solo in the Atlanta area, one with his group Scrap-O-Matic. And then he actually did a solo gig at a small place here a couple of years ago. And he got to sing lead on his classic Midnight in Harlem. So he did his version of it.
He did release I've heard it, but he did release a version of him on Believe Both.
Yep.
He wrote the song, right?
Yeah, he did, and got to see him play it live. Kind of by himself. It was really something.
That's cool. I saw that Derek Susan are doing a live stream at some point with Warren Haynes or something. Did you see that? I saw someone post something. I think.
There was a little something they did about the Joe Cocker thing.
Yeah,
Maybe that
I think this
might
is
be what
something
you're talking
else.
about. Yeah, that could have been. Um, but yeah, a lot of them are in the Atlanta area. We get to see some of them, sometimes at some of the local play. There's a lot of great local places here in Atlanta, Northside Tavern, Variety Playhouse, some places that once in a while you might see, somebody stopping in and playing with one of the local groups or something like that.
Yeah. So it sounded like, because the band actually was kind of on hiatus anyway, after the Ryman shows, I guess, until like June or something. They don't have any shows, like a while.
Yeah, I think Wheels of Stole starts up supposedly the end of June.
So this was
mixed emotions about that.
Yeah, for sure. So this was a planned break. So they weren't really planning to do any jamming, writing, recording. Really, kind of just a break at this point.
Well, I know they had a 4 months off, and they were saying it was the longest break since they put the band together.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I don't know if they were going to do some writing or not. I know Mike was supposed to do a little tour with Scrap-O-Matic. They might have been, some other things that in that regard.
I want to know what's going on. Is there a writing going on? What's?
Yeah, I'm sure Derek and Susan are making some good use of the time with their family, but I'm sure music's a good part of it too.
Yeah, I wonder how much music they actually sing and play during their average day. Do they have a routine? Does Derek pick up the guitar first thing in the morning? Does he play for 4 hours straight in the middle of the day? I wonder what the routine is.
Yeah, and that I would have no idea.
I know they had someday.
Bobby T's down there, so I'm sure they could record and do pretty much whatever they like down there. Is just maybe the two of them and so forth. But I doubt they're getting the whole band together. I know Ann and I, we have tickets for 5 shows for the rest of the year coming up. So we'd love to see them, but we certainly want everybody to be healthy and safe.
They should live stream something, even if it's just a little jam on their porch or something, or out back in their studio. That
would be awesome. But I love the Thursday night things they're doing. The Thursday night,
the rerun, the re-airing of the live concerts. But honestly, if they live streamed them performing, I think we would pay for it. Honestly, I would pay for it.
Absolutely.
Or just do it for Swamp Family access only or something like that. But I don't know. I think they could make money doing that. Maybe not a lot, but some people would pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Donation based, or to raise money, or you give a % to charity or something. They're doing a lot of that. I see a lot of charitable work with their lately when what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I tried to offer him a few extra bucks. Not really, Adam, but we were talking about Wheels of Soul. We've gone every year except for 2017. I was getting ready to buy tickets for the 2017 tour, and it was July 15th. And I said to my wife, why does that date ring a bell? She says, "You idiot, your daughter's getting married that night." And I thought, okay. So this is the one reason why I'm not going to go to a TTB show.
Yeah.
And
good choice.
When we first met, when I kind of got to meet him one time, and I told him, I said, we can't come to the show. I said, after you finish the show at the Fox, could you come play a song at my daughter's wedding? We're only 5 minutes down the street.
That's a good thing. You might as well put that into the universe. You never know. I don't know if you'll get Susan or Derek, but maybe maybe someone else in the band will.
It didn't happen, but it was kind of a funny little story that was the reason we missed the show.
Was there a band at your daughter's wedding?
There was. We did have.
Well, you could have had some sit-ins.
Yeah, that would have been. It would have been spectacular for me, my wife, and my son. My daughter, like I said, not a big music person. She would have said, "Who the heck is this?"
Yeah, crashing my wedding, stealing the attention.
Yeah. Oh gosh. If we want to chat a little bit about Derek, I know you were talking with Sean Roach, and I listened to that, and we've met Sean a few times up in New York at the Beacon, and I think we saw him we were at the Orpheum in Boston last December. We went three night run there, and they played, I guess, 5 sets. They did not repeat one song in 3 nights. No repeats. It was pretty impressive. And I know you and Sean were just talking about Derek's playing, and no solos the same, and he's just incredible, whether it's slide or not. But a couple other things that I find incredible about him. One is the incredible band leader that he is. He's the leader of the band, and he makes sure everybody shines. Certainly, he loves to egg Susan on to take leads and do her thing, and love when he walks over and kind of improvises with the horn section and all. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's fun to see him when they do. When they would do Space Captain, and him and Elizabeth Lee are going back and forth, or him and one of the other horns, and he's pointing at this person, pointing at that person.
Yes, exactly. I love that stuff. Exactly right, Adam. And the other thing I want to say about it, I think that, and most people know this, that he puts the set list together every night. And he's the one that creates the set list. And when you go to a show and you're just, the way it flows is amazing, and he's a master at the way he crafts a set list for a show and for an audience. And I know he audibles once in a while, not too often, but once in a while.
I see the crossing out on the set list or whatever.
Yeah, doing an audible here or there, and just for the. Hopefully you're getting a good listening group out there. I know I think you've seen a lot of people listening in on you. And for Ann and I, just so you know who we are as big fans, and I know there's people that have seen more than 56 shows because I've met them. And there's a lot of dedicated people out there. But we're the ones that wear T-shirts. We're kind of known as the old T-shirt couple.
The ones that you create, you make them yourself.
Ann makes them all. And kind of the way that started, if I can go that route.
Sure.
Back in my days when I was a big Aerosmith fan, Ann would make a sign for me. So I had a goal with Aerosmith. I wanted them to play a song called "Woman of the World."
I know the song.
Okay, from their second album, 1974. They hadn't played
Wings.
Right, and they hadn't played it since 1974. So I had a couple of years, and I try not to be too aggressive about it, but usually had pretty good seats. And I'd just flash it up a couple of times a night, very kind of try to be low-key about it. Finally, July 26, 2012, I flash it up. They finished their set. They're standing around, and Steven Tyler saying thank you. And all of a sudden, Joe Perry hits the riff from "Woman of the World." And then Tyler proceeds to sing about half a verse, and he goes, "What the fuck?" And Joe Perry throws his arms up, and I said, my life is made. I actually kind of had a little bit of an effect on what they did. And it's on YouTube, Adam. You can check it out. If you go to Aerosmith Live, "Woman of the World," you'll see the video. And some young lady got video of it. You can maybe see my green sign for a quick minute, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I never really remember them playing that song much, like
never
90s or whatever or anything. They didn't really it didn't come up much. It's a good song.
It's a good song. It was a rarity. But so when we were following TTB for a while, we finally secured front row seats for the first time. It was March 3rd, 2018 at the Ryman. We were there 2 straight weekends. This was the last of the 4 shows, and we had front row seats. And I said, "You know how to sign whatever?" I said, "Honey, can we?" And she said, "I'll make us some T-shirts, and we'll be in the front row, and we'll have T-shirts on." And so she made the shirts, and we wore them.
What were the shirts? What was on the shirts?
I think it said something like "front row at the Ryman," something like that.
Yeah.
Front row at the Ryman, And so after the show, we kind of went out to the back alley there. And I hate to tell everybody that the Ryman's the best place to see them because the tickets will just be harder to get. But it really is an incredible place to see the band. And afterwards, we kind of walked out back there, and Susan and Derek happened to walk by, and they went, "Love the shirts." They're like, "Love the shirts." And so I said to my wife, I said, "Honey, I think you created a monster here." So pretty much ever since that show, Ann has made T-shirts for us to go to each and every show. And sometimes it'll be a song title, or sometimes she'll put some lyrics on a shirt. And Ann she did get Derek to audible a set that was at the Fox Theater on August 2nd of 2019. It was Wheels of Soul. And I think we were second row near the center. And unbelievable show as always. And Ann's kind of standing more in the middle. And I'm wearing a shirt that says "Keep on Growing." And they did not play that night. And she was wearing a shirt that said "Boom Chakalaka." Her favorite cover of theirs is the Sly medley that they do. Sing a simple song, I want to take you higher. So it's "Boom Shakalaka," part of the lyrics. And all of a sudden, I see Derek's kind of talking. I'm like, I think he's changing the song. He kind of winked at Ann, and then Susan pointed to Ann and goes, "This is for you." And they went right into the Sly medley. And awesome. It was so she won up me on my Aerosmith deal there.
You guys have a lot of influence.
She killed it, and we actually went out by the bus afterwards. We happened to get one of the guys on the crew there gave Ann a set list, so we said, well, let's try to get it signed. And we went outside and we waited. Sometimes you wait, could be an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes for them to, do, I guess, whatever they do backstage, their, meet and greets or whatever. So we waited outside, and Susan came out, and she kind of came up to Ann, and she goes, "Love the shirt. It was great," whatever. And she said, would you sign the set list? And she goes, "Sure." And we looked down, and she wrote "Sly medley for Ann." And it was Space Captain. She marked out Space. They're supposed to play Space Captain. Marked that out, and she wrote that on the set list for Ann. And then Derek looked at me, and he goes, "You should probably wear that shirt tomorrow night." I had the "Keep on Growing" shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Sneak preview.
So we have fun with the shirts, and some of the crew laughs at us all the time. They're like, "What are you guys going to, what are you wearing? What are you wearing?" And, we never know what they're going to play. We just have fun putting on shirts that, just to kind of what we like to hear. And, it just kind of gives people a chance to kind of come up to us and say, hey, and we find
conversation starter.
It's just, people come up and say, hey to us. So we make a lot of friends just by, wearing the crazy shirts that we do. And Ann works her tail off to do them. It's all hand done. She'll tie dye it. She hand paints the song titles and all that stuff. All hand done by her.
Wow. Yeah. What is there any new shirts coming that you guys are working on now that are might be debuting later this year? Assuming there's live music this year.
Yeah, we have. Well, obviously we ran through 3 of them at the Ryman. It was funny. The last show at the Ryman, I mentioned at the Orpheum, they didn't repeat one song in 3 nights. So the Ryman was a 3-night run. And again, we're 2 nights in, and they hadn't repeated a song. We get to the 3rd night, and I'm wearing my Shame shirt, which is my favorite kind of new song of the band. And Ann is wearing Do I Look Worried? And they had played both the songs earlier in the 3-night run. And not for us, but that ended up in the first set, they did Do I Look Worried? In the second set, they did Shame. And those were the only 2 songs they repeated through the whole run. But they were on the set list. We had no influence or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It was just funny that we had had worn those two shirts out of all the songs they could have played. But as a matter of fact, my wife just put away the paint and the tie-dye. She says, I don't know if we'll be going to the shows coming up. So she kind of put things away. We don't have anything for the 5 shows coming up yet. But
you disappoint me.
Yeah.
If
they do happen, I think we'll we'll put her back to business there.
I think at this point, if the band, especially if Susan or even Derek sees you guys without shirts on, I think they're going to be disappointed. You've set this a standard and an expectation moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, we kind of created a monster, and we gotta, you gotta kind of keep it rolling at this point. I guess it's kind of become that kind of thing.
Yeah. After talking to you, Josh, and Sean, it's like I don't feel like it's quite as insane of a fan.
Well,
or just as insane as you guys.
Yeah, there you go. We're probably on the same level. Well, speaking of insane, we did. We went over to London for the show.
Wow.
Ann had never been to London. I hadn't been there since the 80s, and we decided to make a whole week vacation out of it. So we did a whole thing, and obviously we tied it to seeing, the band. And so we had an incredible trip over there. And to think kind of the virus was maybe already out and about, and we were, over in London for a week, didn't really think anything of it. And it was funny, though. A lot of the band was on the flight back with us because everybody was, a lot of them live in Atlanta, so they were flying back to Atlanta like we were. But it was really kind of neat to see them in another country for the first time. And it was.
I'm assuming you saw them either on the plane or at the show or some of the band.
It was, some venues don't lend themselves to
pre-meeting
conducive to that, and
right.
This was more arena. But I will tell you, we were standing. We actually had front row for that. It was pretty incredible. But they had a little pit in front of the stage for a lot of photographers, which was nice for them. But we were, I don't know if Blackberry Smoke had already played or maybe they hadn't played yet. We were just kind of standing there chatting, actually with several fans that we had met, through Facebook over in Europe. And we had our shirts on, so people came up to us. And all of a sudden, somebody walks right up to Ann. And I'm like, from the stage. And it was Brandon Boone, the bass player. And he just walked up and wanted to say hey, and he took a picture with Ann before the concert.
Yeah, they know you. They know you guys.
Well, Brandon's a local guy, and he was introduced. Right, yeah. He was introduced to me by my buddy Jim Laterra that I mentioned. Brandon played with Colonel Bruce, and there's some other young, good musicians here in Atlanta that Brandon kind of sits in with when he's local. So yeah, we've met him a few times, here locally in Atlanta, and it was really kind of cool that he kind of came up and just quick hello to us. Over there in London, since we had traveled so far to.
Yeah, they must probably be, I don't know if shocked is the right word, but probably surprised to see Americans there at the show.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, for sure. What, I was going to ask, what would you say is like is there like not a dream or like a TTB fantasy or something where you could get to see them at a certain venue or play a certain set or play with certain musicians or meet them, play a private party for your family? Like, what would you like if you could have your own customized TTB experience? What would that look like? Or is it you just want to go to as many shows as possible? Because that's kind of like my thing. Because I'm like, I love this band, and I think to myself, like, what do I want from them? I don't want anything from them. I just want music.
I think you're spot on there. It's what we enjoy are the different venues and kind of the different crowds, and then we do enjoy seeing some of the same people. Like we were in Nashville at the Ryman. And young lady comes up to me on the corner. Again, I guess had seen us on Facebook, whatever, post some stuff. And she comes up to me and she says, I know you or whatever. And we chat, we go out, we have drinks, and her and her husband and I have become great friends. And, we met at a TTB show in Nashville, and we're from Atlanta and she's from New York, and we met in Nashville. So you never know who you're going to meet where. And, she came down to a show in Macon, and, we just met them in different cities for shows. So, I guess for me, the ultimate is really what we just had, the Ryman. I mean, to be at the Ryman, with fans, I guess it'd be cool if you could go with, 100 of your friends, right? And have a private show with the Ryman or something like that. But,
that's kind of what it's becoming for you anyway, in a sense, the feel of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's for me, sometimes when you hear a song that there was a song I was trying to catch for a while that I hadn't seen them do, which is Eric Clapton's "Tell the Truth."
Sure.
Okay, and funny thing is, going back to my friend Tony, who played in high school, that was one of the songs they used to cover, and I loved that song. Just growing up, that was a song that was always with me. And then I had seen through set lists and stuff that, Derek had added that into their set and had done it a few times. And I had kidded with some in the band, they play it like the night before we saw them, or they play it the night after we see them or something. And finally, we went to a show in Charleston, South Carolina, and it was a rescheduled show. We had been there earlier, and there was a big storm. It was an outside show, and they canceled it. So we went back like a month later, and they happened to play "Tell the Truth" that night. So the first night I ever got to hear them do that. And being as obnoxious as I am, I yelled out to Susan. I said, I finally got my "Tell the Truth."
There you go.
I just yelled it from the crowd. I don't know if she heard it or not, but I was so excited to finally hear them do that song live.
I think was the first time they did it at the Lock-In with Trey, when they did the whole Layla album. That might have been the first time they did "Tell the Truth." I don't want to say that with certainty.
Yeah, I think they might have done it a couple of times before that, but it was certainly one of the first.
Yeah, not a lot.
But no, not a lot at all. And like I said, the first time I saw it was after that, so it was pretty exciting to get that. Also I enjoy seeing them with guests sometimes. I mean, Derek's my favorite guitar player. I don't we can talk about the best this or best that, but it's kind of who moves you. Like I said, for so long, Johnny Winter was the one that moved me, and then Derek kind of took over, and he's the one that he does it for me. He's my favorite.
Why take over? Why can't there be room for both? Or it's just that there is. It's just that Derek is on another planet.
Yeah, I guess it's just that when I'm kind of into something, I'm into that. And it
I got you.
It was new and fresh, and I mean, I still love. I can listen to Johnny Winter's 20-minute version of "It's My Own Fault" over and over again. And I did ask Derek one time. I said, "Boy, I'd love to see you guys play that. It would be incredible." And I had told the first time I had mentioned I got that picture with Derek the first time down in Florida, but a few months later we were in Birmingham, Alabama, and this couple that I had met and asked us if we wanted to go backstage with them after the show, and we had never done that. And of course, I said, "Heck yes, we want to go backstage. Are you kidding me?" So it was real interesting. It was set up where you kind of waited in a line, and each person got like 2 or 3 minutes with Derek and Susan, just the
like
two
a meet and greet.
Yeah, it was individual. So we had never been backstage. I didn't know if that was normal or not. So we waited our turn, and we were like at the end of the line. And I had told Derek, I said, just want you to know, I grew up, loving Johnny Winter, and he was like my favorite guitarist. And so Derek kind of laughed, and he goes, "Well, let me tell you a quick story." And I was like, talk all night. Tell me, whatever. And Derek had played, I guess, on tour with Eric Clapton. He did a tour with Eric Clapton at some point, before my time with him. And at some point, somehow, Derek was introducing Johnny Winter to Eric Clapton. And he kind of did the introduction or something. And I guess Johnny was older at this point or something. And Derek said, after Eric walked away, Johnny said, "Who was that again?" So that was the first thing Derek ever said to me when I met him. He told me a story about Johnny Winter and Eric Clapton that I was like, here's my new favorite guitarist telling me a story of my my longtime favorite guitarist. I thought that was pretty.
Many stories and anecdotes and moments and great things and people you're connecting with over the years. Are there any other memories or moments that you want to share before I let you get on with the rest of your evening?
Well, I mean, you can tell it in my voice how much I enjoy talking about it. I just want to say how much we love Susan. I mean, she obviously thinks she's got the greatest voice, and her guitar playing is awesome. It just continues to grow. And I think Derek keeps pushing her on the guitar, and it gets better and better. But she is the nicest person. We've had a few times to meet her. Sometimes if you hang outside the Beacon after a show or something, and just every time she is so gracious. I see her to every person to say hey, to take a picture, do anything and everything. She's just so gracious. And, you see that even when they have guests on stage with them, she's always so gracious to everyone. And one of my favorite moments with a guest was, Marcus King was on the Wheels of Soul with them one year. But he also, in the South, did several guest shows with them where, it wasn't a Wheels of Soul. And one was in Augusta, Georgia. And he came out and joined them. And they did Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, which Susan does incredibly.
Yeah, I've seen it. That's on YouTube with Marcus King.
Yeah. And with Marcus, and so after the show was they all came outside after the show. And I happened to get a chance to say hey to Marcus King. I said, Marcus, that was incredible. He goes, first time I've ever played that song.
Wow.
Yeah. He says, first time I've ever played it or whatever. And, he and Susan just sounded great together. It was amazing.
He got a great voice too.
Yeah. He's kind of my other favorite these days. We do see Marcus a good bit, and he plays a lot in the Southeast. So we get a chance to see him numerous times too. And I love when he and Derek kind of play together. I think that's a great match. Obviously, everybody, Warren and Derek are, you can't compare that. But Marcus, I think, is great. And I think the only time to see Taz Niederauer play with TTB was at the 420 Fest in Atlanta in 2018, and they did a Statesboro Blues. You see that we were there that night. That was. Oof. And I think that's the only time that Taz is actually played with Derek.
It's funny because, like you were saying, like you don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy who doesn't like music that's not from the 70s. But really, what it is for me and probably for you is that what we like is music that sounds like it could be from the 70s, or at least has a throwback element to it.
Yeah, I think that has some soul, has some feeling,
right?
And as I guess you can kind of see, I'm drawn to the guitar people. I mean, like I said with Aero, you got Steven. I was drawn to Joe Perry. I even enjoyed the band Queen a lot in their early days. Sure. And it was Brian May's guitar playing that attracted me.
They're all great.
Townsend. I was always been attracted to the guitar player in a band. So when I heard Derek, but I can't say that Derek's my favorite in the band. Susan is incredible too. So it's I know we certainly all miss Kofi and all the others that have come before. Who's in the band right now, but it's amazing how whoever they pick up along the way, they seem to elevate their game and they seem to fit in beautifully.
Yeah.
But seeing the video the other night, I think there was one, it was a few years back with Kofi and hearing the flute and some of his key playing and everything. it just, brought back a lot of great memories, of all that, he contributed to the band. And I love Gabe. I think he's, they finding his strengths, some singing for Gabe,
course, yeah.
Don't Keep Me Wondering, and, him singing along Susan and some other things that, the things, and that's just, again, Derek and Susan, bringing out the strengths of the people, that are in their band, and that they're so willing to share with 12 people. There's just, you just don't see that, 12 people, bands these days.
No, I can't think of anything that's even really close to that, other than like a band that might or an act that might tour with like a touring band kind of thing, but an actual band where all 12 members are core members. Like, you don't really see that as far as I know.
I mean, Mike Madison, I mean, what a hero he is. And the two drummers, I mean, it's, Alicia, I mean, everybody, Ephraim, I mean, Kevin, the whole group, I mean, everybody shines when it's their time to shine. And they, the sum is much better than the part.
And it's pretty good parts too. For sure. Well, again, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. If you want to plug anything or promote anything, or people can follow you, you're more than welcome to share that. If not, that's cool. I don't know. I don't know if you're a public figure. You kind of are a public figure. You're the t-shirt guy.
Yeah, that's all I want to plug, Adam, is that Ann and I are the t-shirt people. If you see us at a concert, please come say hello to us. We love to meet new people. We love to talk, TTB, share stories, talk about the music, the band members, the crew. We love the crew. Everything about it we enjoy. One of the things I say to my wife all the time, I'm in charge of getting the tickets. I say the worst day of the year is the day we buy the tickets, because it's such a tough thing, on the internet. But the best day, go to the show, and that's when it pays off. There's, our favorite day is the next day we see TTB. That's our favorite day.
Same here, pretty much, my friend. Well, thank you again, and it's been fun, and we'll talk soon, and maybe I'll see you at a show someday.
I would love it. We haven't ever seen anything too far West Coast, so we gotta do something about that.
Yeah, or maybe I should come to the East Coast. Maybe that would be easier for everyone else.
I do think we get more shows on the East Coast, fortunately for us.
That's true, you win. Well, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening, and let's talk soon.
Thanks so much, Adam.
So there you go, my conversation with David Flamm. That was a lot of fun. I again thank David for his time, and maybe someday we shall indeed meet at a show. Something tells me it will be quite easy to find him and his wife. For real, hope everyone out there stays safe and life gets back to normal soon and live music becomes a thing again. But for now, check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. And of course, remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or whichever way you listen to this show. And again, positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated. And I also have another podcast that I host called People We Love. And what I do with that one is interview people from all walks of life, most often stand-up comedians and other artists in the entertainment business, about their lives and careers, but I also ask them to highlight someone they love, who has inspired and influenced them. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. PeopleWeLovePodcast.com and at People We Love Podcast on Instagram. And of course, I'm at Adam Choit on Instagram as well. But yeah, that's about all I got for today. And again, thanks for listening. Later.
Ah.